I know there's this huge talk around social media. It's become such a saturated industry, as many people quote, and it's hard to set yourself apart. Like I'm sure you get bombarded with a lot of questions on how to organically grow your brand and, and make a name for yourself. And I know there's a lot of people now on social media in so many different spaces trying to differentiate what they're doing and grow their brands and grow that brand awareness. I'm really, really inspired by your hustle. Not only do you put out quality content, but you're so consistent with your content. And recently I discovered, like, having followed your stories, that, you go through something called PMDD, which is like a bajillion times worse than PMS.
Yeah.
And I was really fascinated by it because I feel like my sister suffers from that. So reading your story made me go in and do a bit of research. And it was kind of like hard to read that, you become almost debilitated for like 2 weeks leading up to your period. And so I was thinking about it. I was like, this girl hustles so hard and pumps out such quality content consistently. And she goes through something that literally puts her on, like, I can't do shit for 2 weeks because mentally, physically, you're like on some kind of like mental, like this lockdown. And I know the biggest thing in terms of growing a brand is being able to post consistently, which is so hard for many of us anyway, with just our usual day, like our jobs and our extra responsibilities and just like wanting to sleep in or take a self-care day and all of that stuff. But you're just constantly generating and pumping out content through all kinds of seasons. And I'm sure you have your fair share of other challenges that you're going through outside of the PMDD. I'd love to know what keeps you motivated, and how do you still, even though like 2 weeks are almost taken out of your life every month, how do you still manage to be so consistent with your content?
So for me, I feel like I'm just a hustler. I get really anxious if I'm not working. I've always been like that since I was young. And so for me, not to be able to work or consistently do what I love, I think really hurts me. And so I had to figure out a routine that allowed me to still do what I love, but also allowed me to take a break if I needed it. I mean, it was trial and error, but I basically figured out a routine that really worked for me. And I figured out how to make content out of content, if that makes sense. So like when I'm filming stuff, like I figured out how to produce more than one piece of content at once. So for example, like us filming this podcast right now, it would be, okay, now you've gotten a podcast, but you can also get a YouTube video out of it. And then if you cut out clips, you can get Instagram posts out of it. If we took a picture together right now, you can make that into a picture post as well, and post that on your story. So like it was figuring out a schedule of like working around my period and other things that I had going on in my life. And on the days that I could focus on making content, I would go all in. Like I would make a ton of content in one day, and I would just ream it out throughout the weeks and just plan it out that way. So that way it was just easier rather than having, like, I think a lot of people think, okay, you need to make content every single day. And that's not really how it works. And you're not going to be efficient. It's not, you're not going to be efficient at it because you have so many other things that are going on in your life. So if you can figure out a way to create a lot of content in one go and then just continuously post it, like it makes the job so much easier. And so the 2 weeks that I am feeling okay, I'll make sure I'm in front of the camera. I'll film like in a day, I can film like 4 or 5 videos if I wanted to. And that doesn't include like TikTok videos, pictures, doing other things like that. I just mean like YouTube and Instagram tutorials. I can film like 4 or 5 of those, and then I'll go into making TikToks, and then I'll go into taking pictures and things like that. It's really just about organizing it in a way that works for you so that it works into your schedule. And then, like I was saying, the 2 weeks that I'm feeling good, I'll do all of that stuff. And then the 2 weeks where I'm not feeling so good, I have all this like backup content that I can just push out. And normally in that time too, I'm like more in my feels. Like I have like, you know, a lot of thoughtful posts that I post during that time because there's so many things that are going on in my head. And that's when you'll see that type of content come out. Whereas when I'm feeling more upbeat and happy, like you'll see a lot more makeup and like upbeat content coming out. So I just kind of go with the flow with how I'm feeling at the time.
I love that. I love that you're very smart and innovative about generating like a whole database of content when you're feeling good. I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. They're under this impression, oh, we've got to create like content every single day, and I just get tired because I have work and I've got the kids. But it's like, no, like if you're traveling, you can make content on the go, and it's like pre-planning ahead of time. So I
Mm-hmm.
just love that you're able to like squeeze out as much as you can. I think it's so fascinating to hear that you can pump out like 4 solid videos outside of all the other stuff that you're doing in the 2 weeks. I think it's so easy to be like, it's so unfair for me that, I'm debilitated for 2 weeks because of whatever I'm going through, but you don't see it like that. And that just goes to show how truly passionate you are. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
I
I just
remember.
want to kind of add to that. I think a lot of people think like, oh, well, how is this fair? Why is this happening to me? And in so many different scenarios, right? And it's kind of like, well, what are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Like you can sit there and complain and you can sit there and be like, well, this sucks. And it does, but like, it's not going to change the circumstances. So it's either you do something about it or you don't. And if you
Yeah.
don't, then you have to live with that, you know? Like the only thing that you can really control is what you do, how you feel, how you're going to handle the situation. You can't control your outside factors. So if you're trying to control the outside factor or let that outside factor control your life, then that's just how your life is going to go. The outside factor will always control you, and there's no way of getting out of it. If you, on the other hand, are like, well, what can I do to change this? Like, how can I change my behavior, what I'm doing, how I view the situation? Then your results are definitely going to change. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. You just got to play with the cards that you dealt with at the end of
Exactly.
the day.